This film is actually nominated for an NAACP Image Award in the autobiography category, and it's inspired a major motion picture documentary narrated by Common, produced by my favorite basketball player, Grant Hill, also known as Tamia's husband, Grant Hill. Hi, Grant. And Dwayne Wade both produced this. It is the memoir of Arshay Cooper, and it's about a rowing team, which I was like, huh? And it's about a rowing team in Chicago. Let me welcome him to the show because this story is incredible, but it also speaks to the possibilities when you can see yourself beyond what other people see of you. Let me welcome the author of the memoir, A Most Beautiful Thing, and also the new documentary that just came out as well, Mr. Arshay Cooper. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Super excited to be on the show.
Let me tell you your story, man. Before we get into it, and everyone, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. You got to read. You got to read it. I think you should read the book and then watch the doc because they sing to each other. But as you're talking, I was like, we hear a lot about Chicago being dangerous. There's a point in the film where you're taking us through these neighborhoods and the different gangs that you have to pass to get to school. And you were talking, well, if you wear your hat to the left, that's a problem. If you wear your hat cocked to the right, that's a problem. And I'm just thinking about being a young child or a young person growing up in a neighborhood where just the slightest infraction, not of your own doing, maybe you just were in a rush, you came out the house, throw your hat on, and could leave you dead. And then your friends all talk, well, how old were you when you first saw somebody get shot? When you first saw, I was like, and then you got to go to school and pay attention and learn.
Absolutely.
Talk about growing up in the west side of Chicago and that stress.
Yeah, I always say that nowadays, whenever there's like a mass shooting in a suburban neighborhood, right away they send in trauma counselors or these experts to help these kids unsee what they saw, right? Which they should. And I remember saying, I have walked out of the house, skipped over pools of blood, heard gunshots when we slept. We lost friends. We have experienced what most soldiers have experienced in war, but before we were 15 years old. When when you see that kind of stuff every day, you can't think about who really discovered America or what's 20% of half when you live in those kind of conditions, right? And so there are young people who are talented, who are hungry, but it's hard to learn when you live in a war zone, right? And in a community that's not a bad community, but a neglected, underserved community.
And a most beautiful thing in the beginning, you talk about having a really loud fan in your house that was broken and it made a loud noise. But over time, you no longer heard the sound. And people who would come to the house be like, damn, this fan is loud, but you didn't notice it. And I imagine many of us are living in households, living in neighborhoods, living in communities with broken fans, the equivalent of what you're talking about, where it's just our norm. Whether it's trash on our streets, things you don't see. I had a meeting yesterday at my condo, and I was like, y'all can't walk past your house with that trash outside and think that's okay. No one should want to live like that. And I know that they didn't mean to walk past step over the trash. They didn't see it. And I know they didn't see it. So it's my job to point it out. So I'm going to point it out. But if no one is pointing it out, how do you ever fix the problem? And is the problem the neighborhood? Is the problem the gangs? Is the problem? I just watched this whole series on crack, this documentary on crack, Stanley Nelson. And I'm like, that was an outside in problem. And that seems to be the story of Black America. There's always an outside influence on the very real thing that you have to deal with every day. That you don't care how the gangs became the gangs. You don't care how the crack got there. You don't care how the guns got there. You just know I got to get to school.
Yeah.
And I got to go through these landmines, several of them, every day. And I got PTSD. I know I gave you, I do this, but I'm just, I was watching it, Arshay, and I was reading and I was saying to myself, how do we overcome? Well, you figure something out. So tell us, what was the moment there's something cracked in your spirit, and you're like, we don't have to live like this.
Yeah, it was out there on the water, right? When experiencing the beauty of not only just being in the first all black rowing team, but a sport that was non-combative, non-conflict, and actually a sport that reduces trauma because it's so rhythmic and you out there in the water every day. But it wasn't until we had leadership coaches. It wasn't just like it was rowing, but it wasn't just white coaches. We had black coaches, we had women coaches, and every day I noticed how much they not only fought for us and loved, but worked outside the work hours for us. So every day they was in the business of eliminating dreams. Like real quick, I spoke in Harlem 2 years ago, and I was asking all these young men, black men, what's your dream? These kids was in sixth, seventh grade, and one kid said to eat at Chipotle, and all the kids were giggling. But you can look at him, and you can tell he wasn't kidding. And I was like, when I was young, there's no way I would have been able to afford Chipotle if it was there. And I remember telling the school council, here's $20. We have to make sure he eats Chipotle. Because if I can
Wow.
eliminate that dream, that small dream, his dreams
Oh,
becomes more bigger. It leaves room for more dreams. And my dream was to only go downtown, 15 years old, in the city of Chicago, a few miles away, and never been downtown. And that was a dream. And there was a
wait. So you
moment,
wait. You've never been
never
downtown
been downtown
Chicago?
until I started rowing. And when the coach took us downtown to row, I was like, this is amazing. I remember saying afterwards to him, I got to go out of town. And then we go out of town on a day trip, and I'm like, we need a week-long trip, you know? But every time a dream was eliminated, my dreams got bigger to the point where we have gone so far that there was no way to turn back. There was no way to give up. There was nothing else to go back to. And that's when it clicked that not only that when you have people who really care, who look at young people, who look at their kids and say, how can I eliminate their dreams? Was when I caught on to, okay, I have to put myself in a position to eliminate dreams, but also do the same for others. And I showed up, I recruited young people so they can experience the same life I was experiencing. And that's how it started for me. That's how it's about leadership, and it's about actually being a part of that leadership, even at a young age.
Arshay Cooper is here. A most beautiful thing is the amazing, incredible journey, his journey. How did we get into the boat from the west side? And before you tell us that, I hear a lot about the south side of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
But what's the west side? The tell us the difference. What are the nuances? South side is supposed to be the tough side of Chicago. From what it's is that
Well, West Side will say they the tough side, and South Side will say they the tough side. But I think the major difference back when I was young is that the South Side had their gangs, West Side had their gangs, but South Side was killing people more on just being a person in a different gang. The West Side was built more on like our set. You messing with our money, you walking through our neighborhood. Who are you? You selling drugs on our set. It was mostly about drugs that people really don't talk much about, but it was more about like, again, South Side was more about what gang you in. West Side was like, what are you doing on our set? Are you selling drugs? It was more about money. More people were getting killed based on money, although it was different gangs. But it was more like, we don't know you, we never seen you. What are you doing here? You know?
so? How does young and you and I love that you brought in your crew. Arshay Cooper is here. How do you go from navigating the gangs to getting in a boat and rowing that that lake?
Yeah,
How, tell us.
so our high school was, it graduated less than 50% of its senior class every year. Graduated about, 10% would go to college every year. And it was one of the most violent schools on the west side of Chicago. And I remember walking in a lunchroom one day, and I seen this boat, and I'm like, wow, what is that? This little white
Where
lady
where
came.
was the boat? Out the window? Where?
No, it was in the lunchroom, and behind this boat was a TV monitor. And this little white lady was like, "Hey, would you want to join the crew team?" And I'm like, "Crew? Like you're taught in Chicago. If anyone asks you to join your crew, you run away as fast as you can the other way." So I'm like, "Crew?" I was confused, right? And and although I felt like because of the way this boat looked, and they had this TV monitor showing the Olympic Games and the boathouse, uh, the images on the TV the didn't reflect the people I was used to. So I said no the first time. I was like, I don't know if it's gonna be a safe space for me. I'm like, not even safe for my own neighborhood. Definitely not gonna be safe and around white people. And then the next day they had pizza, and everyone was like, "Yeah, let's just go to the info session for pizza." But I tell you, when I went up to the gym room and I seen all these kids sitting on the floor, and I knew these kids, these were sons of a drug addict, sons of gang leaders, um, sons of prostitutes. Like I grew up with most of these young people, and when they began to say, the moment you join this team, you'll travel one race in Chicago. Every other race is outside of the city. You will overcome the fear of water and learn how to swim. You will build a brotherhood, all these college trips. You will take entrepreneurship and a summer job promise for everyone. You make money in the summer. That's when I was like, hell yes. You know what I mean? I couldn't say no. And then when we got out there, I tell you,
Walk us through that first time, and where's out there? Where did they take you?
we downtown the Lincoln Park Lagoon, and it's just quiet. There's the water, and this when you get out there and they push you into open water, the same survival mode that kicks in that tells you when you hear gunshot run tells you, in order to get back to the dock safely, you have to pull for each other. In order to pull for each other, you have to shut up and listen. And there's one person talking, and they saying, "Sit tall, breathe. You belong here," right? Speaking all this life into you, and you're taking every stroke together, and it's rhythmic, it's meditative. The sound of the blade hitting the waters, you downloading the serenity. You have a downtown view. There's no police sirens. There's no bullying, no broken street glass, and you're just following the person in front of you, and a constant sound of for an hour and a half. Really, teachers would call us, if you act up, they would say you're a walking storm, but this sport calmed the storm in us daily. And it was that perfect segue into learning how to just think on your own, to meditate, to take risks, to follow each other, to lean on each other, to trust each other. And that's how the team started. We wanted to experience that every single day, and it was truly a most beautiful thing. We wasn't going out there to compete every day. We was going out there to meditate, and it was awesome.
How did you know, or when did you know that you were good? Because y'all started. Well, it's like golf, tennis, yeah. So y'all want us to do stuff, and then we do it.
Yeah.
First of all, when did you know you were good, and what remix have you brought to rowing?
Got it.
Arshay?
There we go.
I know. I already
there
know.
we go. Well, the first race we ran into a brick wall, so we know we literally ran into a brick wall, and that was not fun. But I think it wasn't until our second race when in rowing you have to wear tights, you have to wear spandex, and and we was like, nah, we're not doing that. We wearing basketball shorts, right? And when we had our second race in St. Louis, my shorts got stuck, and that's the reason why you wear spandex, so your shorts don't get stuck.
There was a reason why. They just didn't want y'all to look nasty.
And the water was choppy. But you know what? We were so physically strong on the erg machines. Our scores was better than everyone. We just wasn't as fast on the water. But when my shorts got stuck and that two people had to drop out, and we still placed in a very competitive race, regional race, that's when we knew how good we were. But we had to change some things. But I will tell you that one thing, we all started wearing we all started wearing goggles on our head, but we only wore goggles we didn't wear it on our eyes. We wore it on top of our head and cocked it to the left or to the right. But we only wore it because we said, if our boat flips, we'll be still terrified of water, we get these goggles right on. But all these white boys thought it was a fashion statement. And so the next week we show up at the lagoon, all these white boys had goggles on their head. No one has ever done it. And they was like, we was like, oh my God, they stealing our stuff. But they didn't really know it was out of fear that we was wearing those goggles, but we rolled with it.
So most Black kids don't know how to swim. I've talked with Olympians, and I've had swim instructors on because we drowned more than anybody else. You had to learn how to swim, Arshay. Mm-hmm. Where did they take you? How quickly how resistant were you? And how quickly did you learn?
It took a while. It took, for some people, it took a month. Some people, it took months. They failed the first one test, failed the second one, and passed the third. it was just fear of drowning. You know, my grandmother said that when, that pools back in her days was only 4 feet. And then when they finally got a couple pools in the areas, without swim lessons, people were drowning. So she's like, stay away from water, stay away from water. It was an access issue, right? That really caused a lot of that fear. Not access of just having a pool, but access to proper training. And so that fear was always there for me and a couple other guys. But I think that it took, again, some longer than others. But some were resistant. Some didn't want to get their hair wet, But in order to do that, in order to go to Philly, in order to go to St. Louis, in order to travel and live this life that we never lived, we had to get through the swim test. And so, again, when there's like dreams to eliminate and goals, we are willing to go through the rough part to get to where we need to be. And that's survival.
Arshay Cooper's here, 866-801-8255. Some people want to talk to you before I go to the phones. Tell us how it changed you're telling us how it changed your life. But give us the tale of two Arshays. Had you not gone on the swim team, what would you be doing? And what are you doing now?
Yeah,
the swim, not the swim, I'm sorry, the rowing.
Well, I'm not sure, right? I would say that, my mother was a drug addict, and she had it hard, right? She dealt with a lot of trauma, and she came home and she recovered, and we moved, and I went into a school that, I had no confidence, right? I didn't trust anyone. I only had one friend, and I didn't like people, right? And I knew I was good. I felt like I would have possibly been okay because my mom became a spiritual woman, but I would have had no opportunity to be a leader. I had no opportunity to be a team player, no opportunity to travel, to learn. So it's hard to say where would I be. All these lessons I learned in the sport that I just talked about, I use every day at work. And so my job now is not only being an author or a rower still, competing, but I travel around the country starting teams like in places like Baltimore and St. Louis and other different places like that. And so we're launching 5 new programs this year with the Most Beautiful Thing Inclusion Fund, actually in Baltimore, Stockton, California, South Side of Chicago, Oakland, and Newburgh, New York. In Newark, 6.
Newark, New Jersey?
Yeah, Newark, New Jersey. So we'll be launching a Most Beautiful Thing Inclusion Fund program there as well.
What are the cities again? Go back down.
Newark.
Stockton, Newark.
Chicago, South Side.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore. Oakland.
Yep. Yes. Okay. And I love Stockton because they got universal basic income, even though they didn't reelect Mayor Tubbs.
They did not reelect Mayor Tubbs.
Come on. He's bringing all of this goodness there. Y'all.
His wife has been very helpful with us getting into Stockton for rowing. Yeah, she's
on the city council there, right?
Yeah, they very helpful, and she just wrote a book, an awesome book.
I had her on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. You don't want to hear something funny? That we have the same editor and Chris the same publicist.
Chris from oh my goodness.
Flatiron.
What's the publishing?
Yes.
Oh, he's legendary though. He's done everything from Decoded. Did he do Jay-Z's book? Chris did a lot of books. Yeah. So
he didn't tell me that.
Yeah. He's legendary in publishing. 866-801. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I want to get you out of the water.
Oh, I'm down. Listen, you ain't. I'm a lifeguard, so we're good. I'm down. We could film it. My skills are legendary in the water. Arshay. Yeah. I'm not talking talk. So let's when the thing open up, I promise you, Newark should be. I'm not too far from Newark. And,
really?
Yeah, not at all. I'm from Jersey. My daddy's from Newark, so I could do Newark or Baltimore. Let's get it. All right. Let's exchange information. Arshay, how do people reach out to you?
Yeah, ArshayCooper.com or right there, ArshayCooper.com. Or you can find me on Instagram, Arshay Cooper.
Arshay. What qualities do you need to be a great rower? What are the skills? Because basketball, you need a great dribble, crossover, to be tall, maybe football, strength. What makes a good rower?
People look for just tall kids, but honestly, no athletic abilities. You have to be willing to work hard. And that's the beauty about rowing, right? You sit on the erg, right? The rowing machine, and you pull hard, right? And in the boat, it's really what you put in is what you get out. That's the beauty of this sport. Like, for example, Shaq worked on his free throws for years and never got better. But rowing, it's a promise. You get better the more time you spend on it. And that's the beauty of this sport. It's for everyone.
So those machines that we see in the gym, and they make me nauseous when I'm on that. Do you get nauseous? The rowing machine makes me a little nauseous. Like I'm not really feeling it. But is that where you train?
Yeah, it's just like Ludacris said, you're just not doing it right. And
Okay. You're probably right.
It is a technique to it, right? It's really relaxing on the slide, right? And then you drive and then relax. Some people just go.
Yeah.
You have to relax on the slide and then drive
I have a hard time relaxing. That's probably the problem. Maybe I won't do well on this road challenge that you're going to put me through. And it's not competition. I'm a highly competitive person, but this is a team sport, correct? Like,
yes.
Do you row one-on-one, Arshay?
Yeah, there are singles now, especially with COVID. There's boats, they call it singles, a boat just you by yourself, and you can row against someone else.
Oh, I love it. And again, by going to ArshayCooper.com, you can find out all of the different new programs that you are also heading up and spearheading in these different cities. Okay. And these children, you're sparking their imagination to see themselves broader and bigger, better than the way the world sees them. The young lady that called up where her son is rowing with white kids, there's a passage in your book, or maybe it was in your book, where you talk about there's the white boat and the white people, and there's just the white coaches, and you guys are coming in with all of your melanated beauty, in juxtaposition to that. The boat is white. The sport is white. When I think of rowing, I think of the Winklevoss twins and that Facebook, or Jim or Jack Ryan, on that water. I don't see Black people. So this is super important, the representation.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? It's a great thing that we're working on now. There's only in the hundreds plus years that the sport been an Olympic sport, there's only been 5 Black Olympic rowers. Only 5 Black Olympic rowers in our country. Only 5. When I work with young women, a lot closer with young men in the sport of rowing, and there's never been an African-American man who rowed on American soil in the Olympics. Never. And so 2028, we have the Olympics here in LA. And so right now, just like that young man from Ohio, we are looking for those guys, right? We are looking for those young women. And right now, we are giving them extra support and resources wherever they are, right? So Florida, reach out to me, because we want to make sure that boat reflects the diversity of this country in LA 2028.
Now, are you eligible? And is there age? Like, do things break down, Arshay, for you? Like, can you be in the Olympics in 2028?
I'm old, yo.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Come on, make history.
Oh my God! I think that's a lot of work. I'd rather get people ready to do it.
You said that you get better the more you do it. You've been doing it. You got that long.
Yeah, I'm like, I had my time. Now I want to enjoy wings. There's a lot of young people that don't need the wings and the burgers right now.
I hear you. I ain't mad at you. Pass that baton. I'm just thinking, is there an age cutoff though? Like if a person is fit, it's not like track and field. You got a limited time. Basketball, you got a limited time. Your joints and everything, you got a limited time. What's the lifespan of rowing?
No, you know what? There's, I think the oldest rower I've seen right now is, still in the 30s, mid 30s, higher 30s. Like if you're good and you've been training for a while, you have a shot. You know what I mean? And also for those who are older, because 4 out of 5 of those Olympians didn't even touch an oar until they was in college.
Wow.
That is strength, it's magic and commitment, and honestly believing that you can do it, right? And we didn't know that we can row. We didn't know that there was access for us. And so the more we get the word out there, the more the sport will be diverse.